Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Candace, and I'm going to do a story time vlog. So if you're not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and click that red subscribe button down below and let's get it. So I wanted to do this video because a lot of people ask me, how was your experience? Obviously you're successful, but like when I really get into the conversation of it, people always ask me, how hard was it to tell your parents, that you were pregnant, or, how did you cope? How did you deal with that? Like, how was your experience being a teen mom? Well, for those who don't know, I had my daughter when I was 17. No, I got pregnant when I just turned 17 and had her when I was like 18. And, although I wasn't like 16 and pregnant, I still had the same, roadblocks and the obstacles and struggles that most teenagers have as, a young parent, because of the fact that I was still in high school and, I wasn't financially stable. I didn't live on my own. I couldn't even take care of myself. So who am I to be able to take care of a child? So to jump right into it, at the time, I was in my junior year, summer going into my senior year. So I just had, finished junior year, and it was in the summer, and it was around the time where I wasn't really, I was kind of like a not give a fuck mode. So I kind of just, did whatever I want. My mom was a struggling single mom of 3 kids. We struggled. We lived in a very small apartment. My mom was very strict. She didn't let boys over. I didn't really was allowed to have friends over. I only was able to have a couple of my closest friends. And, it was around the time where I was starting to get into bad habits. I didn't smoke or anything. Of course, I have in the past, but during this period of time, I really wasn't. I was drinking though. I was trying to party and stuff and just live freedom. There was a point where I was in cheerleading. I was in track. All the way, I was actually in cheerleading my entire life up until my freshman year. That's when everything started to crash down. I was like, I don't want to do cheerleading. I don't want to be whatever. In my actually freshman year, I cheered the whole year except for the last couple days. Me and my friend on the team, the coach was just getting on my nerves. All the girls on the team were getting on my nerves, and right before one of the games, I texted my coach. I was like, listen, I'm not coming. I'm done with the cheerleading squad. She's like, are you sure you want to do that? They really loved me, but I was just like, I'm done. I'm irritated with everybody, so I'm just done. Then I was doing track as well. I did track all the way up to my junior year. So junior year, I was very athletic. I was 110 pounds. I still had boobs. I still had a little something, but for the most part, I was not skinny, but I wasn't big at all. So, around this point, me and my current boyfriend, CJ, we were getting closer than ever. It got to the point where we started dating, and I was working at McDonald's at the time, and one of my best friends at the time worked with me at McDonald's, and we used to go out and hang out with CJ and his friends and just get into all kinds of trouble. It got to a point where me and CJ got really serious, and me and my mom were bumping heads. My mom didn't like the fact that I was going out. My mom didn't like the fact that I was hanging out with CJ. I would tell her I was with my friend, but I was really out with CJ. I would say, oh, I'm staying a night at my friend's house, but I was really staying the night at CJ's house. It was just, me and my mom were just not getting along. Me and my mom had a tough relationship, not just because of CJ, but for a long time of my life. That obviously we worked on, but it was really, really tough to a point where she's like, you know what, you think you're grown? Get your shit and get out. So I got my shit and I got out. So I was living at CJ's house for a minute, and I kind of had the idea that I was pregnant because of slip-ups, but I was too afraid to really take a test until one night me and CJ was like, let's go to Walgreens or CVS, I don't really remember, and we bought a test, and we came back home and we went to the bathroom and I took the test, and I peed on the stick, and then I put it on the sink counter, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what are we gonna do if this is the case? I know I am, because I missed, I was late. He's like, well, we'll think about it when we see. So we waited a minute, and then I don't remember if he looked at the test or I did, but one of us was like, yep, you're pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh. Well, I was like, oh, I'm pregnant. I don't remember who it was who said it, but you know, one of us said it, and we like sat there in the bathroom just kind of just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm in my senior year of high school, and guys, if you knew me in high school, I was like the most anti person when it came to teen pregnancies. Like literally, like my school, it was so common for girls to get pregnant that there was a parenting class and there was a daycare and a baby center. So like, especially I was in this AVID program. It's like a college preparatory program, and like there would be like Socratic seminars about like, you know, there would be a topic like, do you believe that schools should have daycares, or you know, how do you feel about teen pregnancy? And I was always the most vocal one when it came to like being against it. And I would write statuses like, oh, babies having babies, and like everybody just, you know, it was just a big slap in my face when people found out I was pregnant. But before I go into that, so I was just like, I'm not telling anybody. We weighed out all of our options, and we figured, you know, we made our bed, we're gonna lay in it, we're gonna figure this out. So I was just like, oh my fucking gosh, like I'm pregnant, like this is real. I was not going to tell my mom. There was no way that I was gonna physically tell my mom. Me and my mom didn't have that type of relationship. Like I barely even told her when I became a woman. Like I couldn't, like I didn't have that personal, like be able to talk to her that's on that type of level relationship. So there was no way in hell that I was gonna tell her, you know. And also the fact that I wasn't even speaking to her. I wasn't gonna be like, hey mom, by the way, guess what? I know I haven't talked to you forever, and I know you told me so, but I'm pregnant now. There was no way that was gonna happen. So I tried to look at my insurance. I had my insurance through my dad. Me and my dad didn't speak at the time. So I called my insurance and I was asking, where can I go for a doctor's visit? I didn't know how to fill out, I didn't know how to get Medicaid. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. So they told me my closest doctor, because my dad lived in a whole nother city, a whole nother county, that the closest doctor I could go to was an hour and a half away. So I was like, okay. So I called that doctor, I come in, I get an ultrasound, and me and CJ are just like, oh my gosh, crazy. So I'm going to school, you know, like everything's fine. My friend, you know, she's like, Candace, that I worked with, she's like, Candace, why haven't you really been talking to me? You know, are you pregnant? You better not be pregnant. If you are, you better tell me, because I'll be really upset if you don't tell me. I'm like your best friend. You tell me everything and I tell you everything. I'm like, girl, I'm not pregnant. Stop saying that. Like, you're just speaking it into existence. I literally wasn't going to tell a human being. There was no way. I wasn't going to tell a soul. And, you know, it got to the point where my mom would like randomly start calling me out of nowhere and be like, hey Candace, how you been? And then like, be like, oh, let's go out to dinner, let's go out to lunch. And we would go out to lunch, and she would like pay close attention. Like my mom knows me. Me and my mom, we're close, but we're like, you know, like that, like not that good of a relationship, but like still a good relationship. It was like bittersweet. It was like one of those. It got to the point where I was starting to show, like my mom literally didn't know until I was like 4 or 5 months, like five months. And like I would like wear big droopy clothes, like big huge shirts. And I would just keep wearing them. And I remember we went to Panera Bread with my little sister. So we go out to Panera Bread, and my sister's just sitting there quiet, and I'm sitting there quiet. And my mom's like, why you been wearing that big shirt? I was wearing a huge shirt. And I was like, because I don't have anything else. All my clothes are dirty. And she's like, are you pregnant? And I was like, and my mom's like, you're pregnant, aren't you? I was like, yeah. Because before she would ask me like randomly, I'm like, why are you asking me that, like, you weirdo? But then it got to the point where I was like pretty obvious. I was like, yeah. She's like, you know, I already knew, right? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you know how I know, right? I was like, how? She's like, because your dad called me and said that he saw the maternity thing on the insurance. And it was so weird because actually before all this happened, like a couple days before that, the school had actually called me to the office, to the guidance counselor. And I forgot his name, but he was super cool, and I would always talk to him at lunch. And he's like, Candace, I need to ask you a question. And I was like, what? And he's like, are you pregnant? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, are you pregnant? I was like, no. He's like, Candace, I know when you're lying. Are you pregnant? I was like, I just broke down in tears. I just started crying, and I was like, I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do. He's like, have you told mom yet? I was like, no, I haven't told mom. I have not told my mom. There's no way I physically can. He's like, well, we're gonna have to call her. And then I was like, no. He picks up the phone. He's like, I'm gonna have to call mom. And I was like, no, please, like, can you give me time? I need to tell my mom on my own. And he was like, Candace, you know, you got, since you're having a kid, you need to be responsible. You need to be able to own up to your, not own up to your mistakes, but you need to be able to own up and face reality. And he was just trying to talk to me. And I was just like, I'm not ready. Can you give me a while? And so that's why I thought my guidance counselor actually called my mom without me knowing. And what really the case was is that my mom knew and she called the school. So my mom already knew the whole time. And my guidance counselor did not want to tell me that my mom already knew, because he knew because my mom called and wanted him to talk to me. Or I don't know, I'm not exactly the exact how it went, the exact format, but it was like similar to that. And so next thing you know, it like me and my mom, and then a couple days later my mom brought it up to me in the whole Panera Bread situation. She's like, okay, have you seen a doctor? This, that, and the other. I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, what doctor have you been going to? I was like, it's in Orlando, well, St. Cloud. And she's like, all right, well, we're gonna get you to a doctor nearby, get you on Medicaid. So I had to grow up, put my big girl panties on. I had to apply for Medicaid. I had to do all the things that, you know, young parents do. And then I get a call again from the following week. I get a call back to my guidance counselor. He's like, Candace, we got to change your schedule. I was like, okay. And then I was in ROTC and I was in AVID, the college preparation program. I actually was no longer able to be in AVID anymore, and I couldn't be in ROTC anymore because of the fact that I was pregnant. I wasn't qualified for the AVID program no more. And then secondly, I had to get the parenting class. So I had to sacrifice the class, and I couldn't sacrifice any of my academics. And the only class was ROTC, which sucked because I was planning on going into the military, and if you had three credits of ROTC, you can get a higher rank and get a higher pay. And so I was like, okay. So I went into the parenting class, and that's when I was in there with other pregnant girls, and they're like, haha, aren't you the girl that always used to talk shit about like people getting pregnant? Well, look at you. And I was like, yeah, look at me. But they really wasn't like that. Like, I was friends with them. We had all mutual friends, and then we all became cool. And then I remember towards the end of my school year, because I was pregnant all the way through my senior year, and I actually had given birth to my daughter in April. I walked the stage in May. So I was so afraid because my due date was April 20th. And I did not think I was going to be able to graduate or walk the stage. I was also working a lot as well. So I would leave school early to go to work. And because, I needed to save money. CJ was working at Checkers and I was working at McDonald's. Like, we both, like, I actually moved back to my mom's house and he would always come over. I remember me and CJ, we went to hang out with one of our friends, and it was weird because CJ was feeling all sick and he could not function. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And he was like, I don't know. That night, I was getting really, really bad contractions. I called my doctor the next morning and I was like, I think it's just Braxton Hicks. And he was like, meet me at the hospital. I was like, okay. So 6, 7 o'clock, we go to the hospital, and they checked me, and I was having contractions, and then my doctor came, and I was like 3 or 4 centimeters dilated. So at that point, he was like, all right, let's get the show on the road. I went into labor, and I was in labor for about 5 to 8 hours, and then I was pushing for like 2 hours. And they told me since I'm so small that like I should have just gotten a C-section, but I got like a 3rd-degree tear. I couldn't walk. I was just in so much pain. But it was just a blessing. It was like the best experience ever. And when I held her in my arms, it was like so surreal. And I just cried, and CJ cried. I was shaking because I got the epidural. And I was like so afraid to hold her because I didn't want to drop her. And then I came back to school, and I was pushing my stroller into the school, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, you had your baby, look. I was like, I didn't even let my mom hold my daughter. So like everybody's surrounding her. I'm like, you guys need to back up. Like, you can look from her from afar. And so like they would look, and then I would go into the parenting class, and then I spent the rest of my days there. And then my teacher, my parenting teacher actually came to me with a letter, and they were like, Candace, I have some bad news. I was like, what's the bad news? He's like, well, she was like, well, because you missed so many days, because I missed 2 weeks of school after I had my daughter because of the fact that I wasn't, you know, I had complications, and, you know, I just needed that recuperation time, and that, you know, my teacher actually sent me my schoolwork to my house. So she actually told me that I wasn't going to graduate. I got a letter saying I wasn't going to graduate. I was like, how are you going to tell me I'm not going to graduate? I went to school for 12 years. I did so good in school, and you're going to tell me I can't graduate? She's like, I don't know, you missed too many days, and they said that you're not going to be able to graduate because of the fact. And then she's like, you really have to submit some, you know, an appeal. You have to put in, you have to have like references, and you have to have like proof why you missed school. So I did a lot of work. I sent in my work schedule, like, you know, me leaving early, my doctor's notes, and thank goodness I got approved and I was able to walk the stage. My daughter was there. I wasn't holding my daughter when I walked the stage, but she was in the crowd, and I was just so glad that, you know, I did it. I made it. And that was pretty much the time that I told my parent. I didn't really tell her that I got pregnant, but like she kind of found out on her own. But that's pretty much the story, guys. And yeah, my McDonald's job really like fucked me over because they thought like I was like so hardworking, and when my store manager found out I was pregnant because I was her favorite person, she like hated me after that. I don't know why. You know, it was definitely an experience that I will live for the rest of my life, and I will cherish it because I honestly, had I not had my daughter, I would probably be somewhere, you know, somewhere in a place that I don't want to be, and because of her, it really changed my life and it made me who I am today. So I just wanted to share that story with you guys, and I hope you guys appreciated it. You know, I'm sharing a little bit of piece of me with you guys. So yeah, guys, so make sure you subscribe to my channel and watch out for future videos. Thanks, guys. Bye.